Morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Nike, I'd like to welcome you to our Introduction to Cybersecurity for Home Workers webinar. Thank you very much for your valuable time this morning. I'll keep my piece very brief so we can quickly move on to the main subject matter. I wanted to give you a very, very brief introduction to Nike. Apologies if you already know us. We're an IT solution provider based in the Midlands. We're quickly approaching our 40th anniversary. Effectively, we're a team of experienced IT consultants and act as a go-to for many of our long-term clients. We're particularly strong in public sector and provide a comprehensive range of IT services, including infrastructure solutions, support and managed security. We thrive and grow on business relationships and collaboration with the experts, and Brigantia, who we are proud to be in partnership with today, have proven themselves in terms of their overall knowledge and their rich niche portfolio of security services. So today we'll be getting presentations from Robert Hall and Jack Poulter, who will give us some insights into what's happening on the security landscape and also some product sets which can potentially help overcome those areas. As we all know, the last couple of years has brought many challenges. COVID forced companies to embrace remote working, whether they wanted to or not, and to operate off cloud-based platforms. This has further driven the need for effective cybersecurity. So cybersecurity awareness, prevention, and security best practices have never been so important. Thank you again, everyone. One final thing, we'll be running a series of webinars covering a wide range of topics over the next few months. And from a market research perspective, we'd love to hear from you as to the areas causing you the most concern at the moment, so we can keep our messaging pertinent. So my email address should be up in front of you, and just drop me an email. Any ideas, we'd really welcome the feedback. You might notice you're muted, so any questions, please send via chat and we'll do our best to address them in the Q&A. Right, it's time to go to the people who actually know what they're talking about. Robert Hall from Brigantia. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin, and welcome everybody to today's session. I think before I get into some of the sort of key threats that companies face from users working from home or working at home, is based on some stats that come from a report that was released by Microsoft, I think a bit early in the year, but I think the situation has remained the same. So just to get into some of these details, the things have changed since we've sent people home to work. Obviously, the way people work and the devices and the infrastructure is quite different. Threats encountered since people started working from home. The increase, obviously, and I think that's just is underlined by the fact that attackers are looking at the situation at the moment and are seeing a huge opportunity to carry out the attacks and basically take advantage of the fact that people are maybe a little bit distracted and have been a bit distracted over the last year. Of the companies surveyed, 62% said phishing campaigns were the most increased security threat over the last sort of 18 months. And the reason for that is because attackers are looking at the situation and they're using the common COVID theme as a way of just delivering more attacks, and it means that they don't have to focus their attacks on different topics. They can focus on one topic, and it just means it's that much easier for them to carry out their attacks, because they don't need to worry about, you know, setting up a lot of different complex phishing attacks. They just focus on one thing. The other thing that impacts businesses and users working from home is that with us working from home, there's a greater need for people to collaborate in different ways, and that means that new systems like Zoom that we are on today, and various other things are being used by staff for the first time. And I think one of the problems with that is that if staff don't know what type of emails that they're expected to get or expecting to get from those systems, it can be difficult for them to know what's real and what's not. So that increase in the number of tools that's being used by companies and by users to collaborate means that there's a greater risk to organizations. And then last on that, 28% of the polled compliant IT professionals reported that an increase in the number of devices employees were using to access the company data was the biggest threat. Obviously, instead of just using your work laptop or your work PC and maybe your mobile phone, it's now changed a bit. I think there's some companies that will be using or allowing users to use their own devices at home to connect to the company data and the company infrastructure, which in itself is a risk, because without knowing what's on those devices in terms of security tools and protection, it's impossible for the company to know how secure the devices are that's actually accessing their data. So there's a lot of the risks that are being faced, and yeah, I think this is some of the things that companies need to be aware of, so that they can be aware of these things and prevent or take action to try and counter them. Getting into the most common risks faced by home workers, there's only a few things here. It's not a very long list because, let's be honest, home networks aren't exactly complex. But just to cover a couple of things there, first of all, there's unsafe Wi-Fi networks. So that could be a home network which may be running on a sort of generic ISP broadband router, which may still have the original username and password, which may be admin. Very often end users or users themselves don't update their personal Wi-Fi equipment to be more secure and update the password. So those networks are quite unsecure as a result of that. Attackers really just need to get that the IP address, which generally is 192.168.0.1 or something similar, and they're able to potentially get into your Wi-Fi device or your Wi-Fi router at home. The other option is networks or Wi-Fi networks when people are working remotely, not so much at home, but maybe I think we've had situations where people have gone to work in a coffee shop in the afternoon because maybe the kids have come home from school and they want a bit more of a quiet environment. So they go and use the public Wi-Fi in the coffee shop or a hotel, and as a result, there's no way of knowing how secure that network is. So Wi-Fi networks are a big risk for companies and companies that have users accessing their corporate data. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, as I've said before, using personal devices for work is a huge risk. Just having a lack of control over those devices poses a massive risk for businesses. And then the other thing I mentioned as well is the use of new systems for collaboration. These new systems, they also send different emails. And as mentioned earlier, one of the key issues is that when people don't know what emails to expect, they're far more likely to click on emails that aren't real. And let's be honest, you can go and set up a free Zoom account. You can go set up a very cost-effective Microsoft 365 account. And if you're an attacker, that's something you can do. And then you can just deploy, you can look at the emails that those systems send, and you can just copy and paste them into your attacks. So it's a very easy way of doing it. And that leads to the next point, which is email scams. So obviously, I think the stat that floats around is that 91% of cyber attacks start with a phishing email. Email is the one form of communication that everybody's pretty much got access to. You've got your email address, and anyone can email you. And even if you have security in place, you've got an email security solution in place. The reality is that things like CEO fraud attacks don't necessarily have attachments when they start. They don't necessarily have anything but a bit of text that's asking the user for assistance. So it's very, very difficult for email security solutions to be 100% effective. In fact, any email security solution that tells you they're 100% effective is either naive or they are lying. So that's just some background in terms of the risks that are faced by home workers. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Jack Poulter, who's going to move on to the next slide, and he'll cover some of the detail around the product Heimdall Security. Over to you.
Thanks, Rob, and I hope everyone's well this morning. I'm going to cover two aspects today of a solution called Heimdall Security, and that is in the aim to try and prevent some of the attacks which Rob's just mentioned on the previous page. I'm going to go into two specific areas. I'll start with the one that you see on the left of your screen at the moment. Some of this language, if you don't understand kind of some of the wording in what you see on screen, I'm going to go into a bit of detail as to what that means and why it's important around security at the moment. So threat prevention, this solution on the left, it's all from a product or from a company, should I say, called Heimdall Security, who are a Danish cybersecurity company founded back in 2014, who were founded by some ethical hackers by trade. Effectively, what they wanted to do is they recognized that everyone has antivirus, which I'm sure many people on the call today will have, but they realized that antivirus is maybe sometimes no longer good enough at the moment, because a lot of the threats which we're seeing are designed to evade your typical antivirus products. The reason that is, things such as ransomware, a buzzword which a lot of people talk about at the moment, coupled along with a lot of people working from home, so a lapse in security in certain areas, really has caused a serious uplift in kind of security incidents, which we're seeing, as Rob mentioned on his stat on the first slide. The product on the left of screen, which I'm going to go into today, is called Threat Prevention. And this solution is specifically designed to help add layers on top of your existing antivirus. So it won't be something which is replacing your antivirus, but to help alleviate it and combat threats which we're seeing when people are working from home, as well as the most common kind of threats we see at the moment, such as ransomware. So what this product is doing is basically it is installed on the computer on the endpoint. So if I, for example, take my laptop home, Heimdall's installed on it, and what it's going to be doing, this product, is blocking traffic from getting into my machine that is potentially malicious. The reason Heimdall do this is they believe prevention is better than the cure. And what they're hoping to achieve is that if we can block things from getting in the first place, then your antivirus is alleviated of some of the stress it's having to put up with at the moment. So you're not solely reliant on just your antivirus. So it's a layered approach effectively. What the solution is doing is, like I say, it's blocking things from getting in, but also if something does get into your machine, it can block things from leaking your data outbound, as well as connecting out to things such as ransomware, command and control servers. The reason I mention it's important with home workers is that because it's installed on the machine, it means that no matter where the machine goes, it's going to filter the traffic on it. So you don't have to be connected into your office environment to get your protection, which is why it's important for home workers. Like Rob mentioned before, maybe the Wi-Fi is something which is a bit dodgy, you're on the train, maybe you're in a coffee shop, those sort of scenarios. This can make sure you're protected no matter where you're going. What this can also be used for as well is that sometimes some companies are a bit unsure as to what their staff are doing, maybe when they're working from home. They want to maybe control which sites they can or cannot go to. We can also use this solution from blocking people from going to social media sites during set hours type thing as well. The primary aim of this product, though, is to block things from getting into your machine, but at the same time, blocking malware from getting out as well. Obviously, I'll take any questions at the end regarding that solution, that threat prevention product there as well. The product to the right of screen, just like the product on the left, is designed to be proactive. One of the major threats which we're seeing at the moment is out-of-date pieces of software. So most common things people see is, okay, well, I'm going to patch all my Windows updates. It requires me to reboot my machine. Yes, those are common security threats, and we can help control that. But the threat which a lot of people kind of miss is that through third-party software. So things such as your Adobes, your Flash, maybe things like Google Chrome, your Firefox, all these different applications where a lot of people will have them on the machines, but they're simply not being patched. And the reason why patching is important is the fact that if a machine is not patched, hackers are actively trying to find holes within a piece of software. When they find a hole or an exploit, they can then take control of that software and infiltrate your system from there, steal your data, or start a ransomware attack. So what we're trying to do here is mitigate any holes in any of the software that you have, so that if something does get, or if should I say, something gets on the machine, it will be unable to exploit any of those holes because everything's patched and up to date. So just like with the product on the left, prevention is better than the cure. Having a layered approach to security is always more beneficial than be reliant on kind of the one silver bullet type approach. And just like with this solution, with like the one on the left, this will sit alongside your antivirus. Ideally, what we're trying to do is make it so that there's so many layers for hackers to get through before accessing your system that at the end of the day, you mitigate a large majority of those attacks. It's just simply not worth the time of the hackers at the end of the day. I'll go into any questions if anyone has any at the end. One thing I'd like to note as well with this is these solutions are cloud-based, and it's on one endpoint agent, which means that you don't have to have anything on-premise on a server inside your network here. So the only thing you have to do is simply install it on the machine, and then it will do the rest from there for you. Back to you then, Rob, in that case. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is it's not so much an informational slide or anything like that. It's just a question to those, and it's obviously something I use more when it's in-person events, where I can ask people to put their hands up if they've seen an email like this. But I think the reality is that everybody on this call will have seen an email like this or similar to this, which appears to come from Microsoft 365. But when you look into the details, it more often than not isn't. So just on this example, a couple of things I'll point out, just things that people should be looking for when they get an email like this, or any email actually, is just the basics. First of all, the first thing that you should look at always is the email address. The email address is obviously a key thing, because if it's coming from Microsoft.com, then you can probably think that it's going to be legitimate. But if it comes from something that's slightly different, or it's, instead of being Microsoft.com, it's Microsoft.payments.com, then it's probably fake, because the actual domain that's coming from is payments.com, not Microsoft. So it's little things like that that people need to be aware of. And in the majority of cases, they aren't aware of that kind of thing. The next thing that you should look at in this email is the subject line. Obviously, you can see the word immediately is in the subject line over there. And then when you get into the body of the email, you'll see it's repeated over there in the body of the email. And there's also a 24-hour deadline. Now, to people, or to individuals, that what that's going to create, or what they're going to get from that, is a sense of urgency, that whatever they've got to do, whatever the email is telling them to do, they've got to take that action, and they've got to take it as a matter of urgency. Because when you look at the context of the email, or the pretext, there's a message saying that the IT administrators enacted a security policy within the system, and that the user has to change their password. And when they have that message combined with the sense of urgency that's created around that message, more often than not, users will click on the link without thinking about it. But the reality is that users don't necessarily know these things. And the reason why they don't know it is because they're not trained. And I think the basic thing to consider on this is that when you employ somebody new, the first thing you'll do within your business is make sure that they can do their job properly. Whether that's a sales job or an admin job, you want to make sure that they understand how to use the systems that you use. You want to make sure that they understand whatever product you sell, or whatever you manufacture, or whatever it may be. You want to make sure that staff are actually capable of doing what they have to do. And I think one of the things that's overlooked is the fact that training for users to understand how to identify this type of email as a phishing attack is very often overlooked. So what is needed and required across all businesses, and one of the things that insurance companies are actually putting in place more and more these days, is a requirement for companies to have ongoing continuous security awareness training, so that users can look at this email and they know what red flags are contained within this email, and they're able to actively protect the organization from these types of attacks. So getting into some of the detail about the KnowBe4 product, I don't have a lot of time, and it is quite a comprehensive product. But what I would say is, what KnowBe4 does is it delivers security awareness training to staff in a very, very effective way, because it uses a combination of phish testing and training, so that as a company, as users, you get insights into what people are likely to do. So the phish testing side of things is not there to punish people. It's not there to get people to fail so that you can fire them. Instead, it's there so that you can see what your staff are likely to do when they get an email from your banking system or your accounting system, telling the user to click on a link, or from Microsoft 365. Because when you understand what mistakes people are likely to make in those scenarios, it means that you can then go and deliver training to them so that they don't make those mistakes in the real world. And I think that's one of the key things that's important to get across to users, is to let them know that you're going to test them, but that's so that you can train them effectively on the back of that testing. In a way, it's kind of the reverse of going to school. When you go to school, you get trained and then you get tested. With security awareness training, it is vital to do that testing as well. And in a lot of ways, it helps to do the testing first, because it shows what the weaknesses are. With the KnowBe4 product, there's unlimited use of the platform, so that you can do as much phish testing and training as you like. Obviously, the more you put into a solution like this, the more you'll get out in terms of results. So that's why KnowBe4 allows you to do as much phish testing and training as you like. There's customized phishing, which allows you to do specific attacks on different departments. So as I said earlier, you can send banking emails and accounting emails to the finance team to see how they respond to those emails. Because when you test people in a way that's relevant to their day-to-day function, you will get much more relevant results from the testing. But you can also do emails to all staff. So as an example, this email that you can see on the screen, this was an email it is an email from the KnowBe4 solution. So it also shows how effective the phish testing can be, how accurate and how well KnowBe4 actually spoof these major brands, because attackers will spoof the brands very well as well. So you can get those phishing tests out to users, and then you can see what mistakes they make. You can also add attachments to the email. So if it's finance, you can send an invoice attached to the email, see if they open that attachment, because it's also good to understand not just whether people click on links, but how far they actually go with their failures. So you get really good insight into all of that kind of activity, and those details are highlighted through the detailed reporting that you get from the KnowBe4 system. Because as an organization, when you can see exactly how many people are clicking on phishing test links, how many people are doing their training or not doing the training, it means that you're able to understand what your organizational risk is and how you can actually continue to reduce that through the use of KnowBe4. And that comes to the next point. With the KnowBe4 solution, you're able to, on average, or let me restart that, based on stats from KnowBe4, the average improvements across all customers that use KnowBe4 is around 84%, and it depends on the size of industry, size of organization, and the industry that they're in. But the average improvement is 84%. In smaller companies, that's actually higher than 84%. It's probably closer to 90%. But by reducing that organizational risk and lowering the phish prone percentage, you're able to build you're able to reduce that organizational risk. And what you're effectively doing is building your human firewall. And the reason why you build your human firewall is because people are the one part of every business that are the most vulnerable to these types of attacks. Because the logic is that if an email gets through the email security, it doesn't get detected by the antivirus on the device, it gets through the firewall that they're sitting behind, it means that the email is probably safe. But the reality is that, as I said earlier, technology will only protect against so many types of attacks. It can only protect against so much. So things will always get through email security, unfortunately. So by building your human firewall, you turn your traditional weakest link into your strongest link, because let's be honest, humans are brilliant pattern detecting machines. If we have the right training, we're able to look at the details of an email and apply the knowledge that we have so that we can protect the organization. And that's how you build your human firewall, by doing the training and getting the message across to users that this is how you spot this type of attack. This is how you protect against it. And that's what makes the KnowBe4 solution so effective. So obviously what we're able to do in partnership with Nike is, if anybody would like any more information on either of these products, if you contact Nike and Kevin, who I think his email was kevin@nike.co.uk, you'll be able to get more information. And if you like, we can even get onto more detailed demos to show you around the solution, show you the different ways and the different ways that the solutions can help you and reduce your organizational risk, which is what it's all about. So on that note, I'm going to come back to the questions. So I'm just going to have a look at the chat and the Q&A and see if there's any questions in there. So Jack, I've got a question for you. So does Heimdall support Windows and Mac?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yes, it supports Windows in terms of the patching piece. It doesn't support Mac patching, but with the threat prevention piece, the piece which is blocking traffic, that works on both Windows and Mac.
Thanks, Jack. And then a question for me on KnowBe4. Can I report phishing emails to KnowBe4? Yes. So with the KnowBe4 solution, there's a button called Phish Alert, which sits on the or sits within Outlook, but that's across all devices. And basically, it allows the user to report any email that they see as suspicious to using the Phish Alert button. What it will do, first of all, is it will look to see if the email is a phishing test from KnowBe4. If it is, it says, well done, you've spotted a phishing test. If it isn't a phishing test, it will delete it, and then that email will be sent to a system administrator so that that person can have a look at it. Obviously, that could be somebody at Nike. It could be somebody within your own business, because if you concerned about confidentiality within the emails, obviously that would allow you to keep the emails internal. But the idea is that it goes to somebody that's got a bit more training, a bit more knowledge, and a bit more skills to be able to detect whether something is a phishing attack or just a false positive. The next question we've got is, what is the training like? So one of the things that KnowBe4 is very careful about doing is making sure that the training side of things is as effective as possible. And the best way to do that, as far as KnowBe4 is concerned, is to have a huge variety of different training. And that's different training in terms of the style of the training, and also different training in terms of the topics that they cover. They've got over 1,400 or about 1,400 training items. And that will cover everything from security training to compliance training to health and safety. It even goes as far as how to keep your kids safe online. So there's a lot of different training that's covered in the system. But the most important part is that they've got the different styles of training as well. So some of it can be a bit Americanized. Some of it will be more specific to different cultures. So as an example, we typically use Twist and Shout with our managed service for KnowBe4. Because Twist and Shout is based in the UK, and they create really good short and sweet videos that are scenario-based training. So it's like little TV shows with the actors playing out a scenario that will teach the user about security. So that hopefully that answers that question. I do have another question in the Q&A section, so I'll just go into that. Have you answered that? Okay. So yeah, Jack's answered that. So yeah, if there's any other questions, we'll leave things open for another few seconds just to get the questions in. But if we end the call and you haven't managed to ask your question, then obviously please feel free to send that over to Kevin on the email address kevin@nike.co.uk. I haven't seen anything else come in, so I think what we'll do is we'll end it there. Oh. Okay, yeah, sorry, it was a thank you. So yeah, I thought somebody just got a question in at the last second there, but yeah, thank you to everybody for joining the call. Really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to join us, and hopefully the session was useful and informative. Yeah, I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time. We'll be making contact with each of you individually after this call, just to get your feedback. It's really important to us. And as Robert said, you can drop an email, or you can also send an email to sales@nike.co.uk. So thanks again, everyone. Hope you found it useful, and be speaking to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.